Have you ever wanted to take the concept of a plague, convert it into a physical manifestation of bone and flesh, stuff it into a suit of armor, give it a gun, and set it loose on your enemies? I think I might have a kill team for you. They're a compendium team, and I wanted to wait to see if Games Workshop was going to give them the update treatment, like the Warp Coven, the Admech, and the Void Dancers. This might not end up happening. If it does, I'll eventually take another look at them, but for now, let's go over one of the handful of teams Grandfather Nurgle brings to the kill zone. Despite their rules' origins, the team is still able to find some great success in match play due to their extreme tenacity. Opponents of the Death Guard learn very quickly that damage they deal is too unreliable, and every play they make comes with great risk. The Death Guard did receive a data slate balance adjustment a while ago, increasing the total units their Plague Marine fire teams can take. That change still persists in the current for this overview Q3 2023 data slate. Remember, always keep up with the information updates released on the Warhammer community page. Before we get into it, thanks for watching. If you're new to the Chimerix project and enjoy tabletop content, maybe hit that subscribe button, maybe the like if you're up for it. And just a heads up, we have a Discord community linked in the description below. If you want to keep up with everything going on around the channel or want to join other fans of the tabletop tactics genre, we'll be glad to have you. With that said, let's don our hazmat suits and dive into the bloated corpse of the Death Guard kill team. Although they do not have a team-specific ability necessarily, we should bring this up now, as it is the key element that makes the Death Guard so hard to kill. Disgustingly resilient is found on each and every unit type in the team, from the armor-clad Plague Marines to the lowly shambling Poxwalkers. This is a full-on 5+ feel no pain. Any wound can be negated by this, there are no limits. This also doesn't allow basic injury to occur on the unit. Very helpful, as the Death Guard team is one of the slowest moving teams in the game. This does still mean that super injury abilities can affect them, but since all of their units have a movement characteristic of 4 already, under the current data slate, super injury would only really affect the ballistic and weapon skills of the unit. No movement characteristic can ever be modified to be under 4 inches. A sort of hidden boon, I guess. At the very least, most of your strategies won't be affected by super injury all that much. To people who may have not experienced an enemy with 5+ feel no pain, you're probably thinking 33% chance isn't much to worry about. Maybe factor in 1 or 2 wounds reduced to my plans and everything will be fine. You hear that? That's the sad giggling of those who have faced off against the old 5-up. Sometimes it doesn't matter at all, 20 wounds could see no reduction. But sometimes the Rotfather likes to have his fun, and that 5+ might as well just be a 2+, as 12 wounds suddenly becomes 1, and all your plans begin to crumble. Over time, this randomness works to break the very mental state of those that go against it. If you plan on facing down the Plague Army, you'll need a mental fortitude as tough as the denizens of Nurgle. Otherwise, you might fall prey to that creeping sense of defeat before anything has even happened. Good luck! A problem many have with the Compendium teams is the lack of creativity in some areas. The Death Guard are no exception to this. Their strategic ploys are fairly standard when it comes to elite Space Marine teams. Malicious volleys for double shoot with specifically bolt weapons, hateful assault for double fight. Contagion brings the plague flavor with a 2-inch injury aura. Now, I should note that this is regular injury. The Gellerpox have an engagement range super injury aura, but this regular injury aura has some function across many teams to prevent it. You'll want to pay attention to the teams that can avoid its negative effects and maybe save your command points. The tactical ploys up the Nurgle qualities when compared to the strategic ploys. First up, we have Effluent Demise, my favorite common Chaos and Nurgle function. This is only usable on the Bubonic Astartes units, so just the Plague Marines. For 1 command point, as that unit is incapacitated, it explodes in a 2-inch radius from the outer edge of the unit's base. Enemies visible to the Plague Marine in that range all suffer D3 mortal wounds. It makes the more melee-focused teams have to pick and choose their fights more carefully than usual. Revolting durability is used in either the resolve successful hit step or resolve successful save step of combat or shooting against a bubonic Astartes. This allows the player to change a critical hit into a normal hit. Very powerful, as this changes the actual roll. This could be useful against some triggered effects from using a crit. However, this will not prevent things like piercing, mortal wounds, splash, or rend from triggering, as the effects trigger in the roll attack step before the resolve step. Keep that in mind. Dig In provides a bubonic Astartes unit a special action until the end of its activation. The action, under the same name as the ploy, increases the unit's defense stat by 1 until the end of the turning point. This makes the Death Guard one of the rarest statted units in Kill Team. Not even the Talons of the Emperor see the 4 defense stat line. This ability tied in with the Feel No Pain rule, tied in with the 3+ save, tied in with the Revolting Durability ploy. Good luck killing a Death Guard Plague Marine. This level of durability is the reward for their slow movement, and it is something to be truly feared. Another notable downside, depending on how you look at it, to compendium teams is their lack of faction-specific TacOps. Now, for some, less noise is better in a game filled with so many different interactions, and going compendium Death Guard limits the noise of TacOps down to 3 possible archetypes, depending on what you take. If you are planning to go all elites in a dual Plague Marine fire team, you will be limited to Seek and Destroy as well as Security. If you split forces and snag Poxwalkers, you'll gain Infiltration as a possible source of points. We'll be looking at the Critical Ops 2022 update for the TacOps here. Now, most people will point to Security as the big go-to for Death Guard. They are very hard to approach and tend to hold down objectives quite easily. On this I agree. Seek and Destroy can be certainly achievable, but I'll always feel that teams need a bit of mobility to easily perform these tasks. Although Executioner and Assassinate Target can have fun side effects. Even if you might not achieve these 2 missions, you could possibly force the enemy to limit the use of 1 or more of their operatives on the front line, helping your team's sustainability. Infiltration from Poxwalkers might not seem that good at first, but choices like Seize Defenses or Subversive Control could play into the take and hold nature of the team. Things like Stock Target could allow 2 Poxwalkers to work in tandem, one to hug the opponent and keep it in place, the other nearby just staring ominously. Hell, the Poxwalkers aren't really there to do much damage anyway, so Implant could be a great way to snag some easy points. Implant doesn't even have to be done across multiple turns. Set up a big single turn multi-attack across many Poxwalkers and get all 3 implants in one go. Even without the boon of a faction TacOps selected, the general missions within each archetype can be just as easily achievable. The only thing they miss is the team-based flavor in the text. But come on, Implant could just as easily be called Spread the Infection. Central Control could be Plagued Core. Just because the flavor text isn't there doesn't really change much. There are just as many bad faction TacOps as there are bad options from the regular choices. And with Critical Ops reducing the amount of faction TacOps you can take to 1, it even limits some of the teams with stronger personal missions a bit, sort of a hidden compendium buff amid all the changes. Gear-wise, the Death Guard are actually a bit interesting. Of course, only Marines can have equipment on them. Poxwalkers are out of this equation. One of the only common items on the list is the Crack Grenade, an always solid anti-elite option. Instead of the Frag Grenade, Nurgle provides Blight Grenades. Same stat lines, all the same special rules but with 1 extra. Ceaseless, for the rerolls of 1s for the shooting attack. This is a benefit conferred to everyone caught in the blast. For more plague-centered gear, we have the Nurgling, a once per battle free ability used when an enemy within 3 inches of and visible to this Death Guard activates. That operative suffers a drop of 1 APL from their activation, devastating against 2 APL teams. The Plague Bell provides a 1 action point ability to its bearer. This provides all bubonic Astartes within 6 inches of the operative that rang the bell a 2-inch increase in their movement when they activate. This does of course require the Bell user to go early in the round and end its turn near your team, which usually means on the backline. This can be a little awkward in subsequent turns, but at the very least it is useful for turn 1 mobility on this very slow moving team. The Filth sensor is an enhancement for the Contagion strategic ploy. What would normally be 2 inches of an injury aura is now 4 inches when measured from the unit equipped with this. Most of these items are all one-offs. For the more common equipment, we have Virulent Rounds, adding 1 to the critical damage of either a bolt gun or bolt pistol. That ups the damage line for those to 3-5. Not bad for 1 equipment point. Mephitic Toxin adds 1 normal damage to a Plague Knife or Plague Knives on a unit. That ups this damage line to a 4-5, which is horrifying against most 8 health teams, and in the hands of a Plague Knives wielding fighter, this is attached to a 5 attack, 3 up to hit relentless weapon. Honestly, a pretty solid and adaptable list of possibilities here, and since most units are at least equipped with a Plague Knife, you'll always have something worth applying here, because 4-5 melee is just gross. Starting with the Plague Marines, looking at the Warrior gives you their basic stats. 4-inch movement, 3 APL, 1 GA, 3 defense, 3+ save, 12 wounds. The Warrior comes with a bolt gun, which has the fairly basic stats for that weapon. They also come with a Plague Knife, which is better than the common fist attack that other Marines of this type tend to have. Even the Legionary Warriors only have a 3-4 damage line, unless they go pistol and chainsword. Changing the loadout possibility adjusts this unit between the Gunner, Heavy Gunner, and Fighter variants. The Gunner is able to choose the Close Range Anti-Elite Melt-A-Gun, a Plague Belcher, which is a Nurgle variant of the Common Flamer, and comes with the benefit of a better crit damage line, making the Nurgle Flamer variant one of the best in the game. This unit can also take the bog standard Plasma Gun. Great in the hands of a Plague Marine, as the Feel No Pain rolls also work to mitigate the hot mortal wounds. The Heavy Gunner variant has a Blight Launcher, a solid AP1 damage dealer for teams looking to sustain some firepower on lower health units. It also has an advanced Plague Belcher, called the Plague Spewer, same stats but with an extra attack, one of the most horrifying close quarters weapons in the game. The Fighter variant has many options. A Flail of Corruption for middle of the road damage and a chance at mortal wounds on nearby enemies. A great Plague Cleaver for a lower chance to hit, but with potentially high damage rewards off of a 5-7 damage line and rending. 2 different dual wield options as well. Plague Knives, which we talked about in the equipment overview, and the combo of a Bubotic Axe and Mace of Contagion. This second choice would give the user 2 different options to use in melee. One comes with decent damage and rending, the other with slightly lower damage and stun. You'll have to pick which to use as you begin the fight. There is an Icon Bearer variant that comes with ability differences alongside the standard warrior loadout. Like most Icon Bearers, this one helps in capturing objective markers, but the icon also improves the best part of the Death Guard. When activated for 1 AP, all Bubonic Astartes units within 3 inches of this Icon Bearer get to reroll results of 1 and 2 on their disgustingly resilient checks. The absolute horror. Now, the Plague Marine Champion gets the usual leader benefits, similar stats to the Warriors, but with the addition of 1 wound. Loadout-wise, there are a few options. From ranged, you can pick a bolt pistol, bolt gun, or plasma pistol. Then from melee, a Plague Knife, Plague Sword, or Power Fist. Most people will lean towards the plasma pistol here, but what I find interesting is that wielding a bolt gun doesn't prevent the unit from taking a sword or Power Fist. Both of these melee options are scary from close range, and if you want to create a wall of bolter fire with the enhanced crit damage under the ploy of double shoot, a champion with a bolt gun wouldn't be the worst idea. Lastly, we have the Poxwalkers. 4-inch movement, 2 APL, 2 GA, 3 defense, 6+ save, 7 wounds. They come with improvised weapons, 4 attacks on a 4+ with a 2-3 damage line. These cannot be equipped with anything, and if they perform a mission action or pickup action, they must spend all their APL doing it. The big benefit is that if you choose to go the path of the Poxwalker, you will get 8 of them in place of 3 Marines, and they will all have 2 GA, allowing for much to happen with each activation. People underestimate these units, and against powerful melee adversaries they do tend to fold like paper, but forcing units to get stuck in melee against a 7 wound feel no pain monster who tends to only parry. If you want to see a low APL shooting focused team get mad at their lack of ability to do anything, Poxwalkers, that's your play. They gunk up the gears while the Plague Marines are free to do anything they want, unencumbered. Death Guard rosters are interesting. Building a squad is up to choosing 2 fire teams. One of these has to be a Plague Marine team. The second can be another Plague Marine team or the Poxwalker team. In match tournament play, I'd start the roster with 8 Poxwalkers and call it for them. Now, a Plague Marine fire team is odd. Technically, a fire team is built as 2 Plague Marines at first. These can be any of the variants. However, on that 2-person fire team, you cannot include a gunner, heavy gunner, or fighter alongside another of any of those types. This leaves icon bearers and warriors to be partnered with these specialists. As well, the gunner, heavy gunner, and fighter can only be included in the on-field kill team once. Also, if your team does not have a leader, a warrior can be replaced by the champion unit. On top of this, fire teams are provided 1 additional warrior as per the data slate buff. As far as I can tell, this would allow you in a Poxwalker comp to field 1 champion, 1 specialist, and 1 icon bearer. But when fielding 2 Plague Marine fire teams, you are guaranteed to field at least 2 warriors, an icon bearer, 2 specialists, and a champion. The way I break this down to keep it simple in the dual Plague Marine team build is each fire team starts with 1 warrior. Then, one team gains a champion, the other gains the icon bearer. Then, both teams can gain either warriors or specialists as long as those specialists are from different variants. This means, for the roster, that you would have 12 slots to fill after the Pox brick. 2 of these would automatically be warriors. Personally, I like to keep my gunner options open for both heavy and regular. This fills 5 slots. The icon bearer is a must for 1. This leaves 4 slots open for a few options. I do feel for the leader that it can be useful to take a plasma pistol variant for 1 or both of the major melee weapons, but I would certainly want 1 bolt gun variant for the big shooting matchups, as you can't rely on Death Guard speed to get you in pistol range all the time. This could give you 2 to 3 champion options. The fighter could fill 1 or 2 options based on what you think might be a good defensive melee unit. Maybe the Plague Knives for small threats with the equipment possibility. Maybe the Great Plague Cleaver for the bigger threats. The reason I say defensive melee is because of the big burden on the Death Guard, the 4-inch move. This limits the melee threat range to just over 6 inches, where all other teams would normally be just over 8. Death Guards have a hard time catching up to enemies. Having to 2-step a Plague Bell into a charge combo is 1 trigger too many to catch people out. So I always feel these fighters are best used on the mid or back line, in conceal, in cover, existing as the big potential threat for anyone that chooses to wander too close. Alternatively, the Great Plague Cleaver can be great when cleaning up the enemies stuck in the sticky grasp of the Poxwalker fodder. The Death Guard are a very straightforward team. We sprinkled a couple ideas here and there throughout this whole overview of possibilities for advanced tactics, but what the core of the Death Guard comes to is being durable and putting damage downfield. Knowing when to burn command points to save units, knowing the most optimal order of activations in the turn. I guess for the sake of examples, I've talked about the tactical hug in a few places. Let me show you it. We have some Kasserkin near some concealed Poxwalkers with an icon bearer and a fighter a little further away. It is the Death Guard's activation, so a tactical hug is in order. A Poxwalker activates and charges its target. Both the Kasserkin and Poxwalker are at full health, and Poxwalker stats wouldn't have it hit too hard or too often for that matter, so it would pass its final action point. With the 2 GA, the second one would activate and charge its target, doing much the same. This is the tactical hug. The Kasrkin player is faced with a multi-tiered issue. These Poxwalkers can't be targeted from range due to the melee, so units covering them from range are useless. The team isn't great in melee outside of the leader, so charging in to help may only serve to put others out of position. Let's say one of these two Kasrkins haven't activated yet. Barring any benefits from Ploys, this unit would have to spend its 2 action points to flee. This would be a wasted turn. In the distance, the Icon Bearer is waiting to go and activate a Plague Bell it is equipped with and taking a better position to allow the fighter a full charge range. At this point, you just have to choose who to sacrifice. The Kasrkin retreats with the target that would be tastier, Plague Bells used. An activation in another part of the map goes off, the fighter activates, is given dig in for a command point, and charges, being careful to position itself near the Poxwalker. A fight ensues, and with the +1 melee support the Poxwalker provides, the Kasrkin is easily killed. Dig in is then used. Now, if the Kasrkin choose to try and fire on this fighter, not only does it have a 3+ save, but the nearby Poxwalker would also provide cover from a large angle, allowing the Plague Marine to retain a save out of its now 4 defense stat. Outside of the tactical hug idea, the Death Guard have a simple move, shoot, capture function that is able to be spiked with the double shoot ploy fairly easily. Even though this team is still stuck in the compendium, it isn't something that is easily overcome. In the right hands, in the right circumstances, the Death Guard can feel like an insurmountable force, shirking off sheer volumes of damage, only to return the favor in kind against units that tend to be nowhere near as tough. Hopefully, one day Games Workshop will feel the urge to give them an update, change them up a little. Then again, we all know Nurgle doesn't like that. He certainly loves this team for who they are, and maybe we all should too. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this overview to be a little helpful, either in approaching the Death Guard as a team to play, or perhaps preparing to go against them in your local scene. Maybe you have some fun stories or ideas on how to approach this twisted and grotesque horror of an elite team. Let us know in the comments below. And as a reminder, the community Discord is linked in the description. We'd be happy to have you. As always, likes for the like god and subscribes for the subscribe throne. I am Kimmerix, and I'll see you in the next one.